We'll give YouTube a moment here. YouTube looks like they changed the way their live setting is. I have to do this differently now, but hopefully, we'll see if this works. I'll give people a moment to join. Pardon me as I adjust the camera. And we can get started. All right, I think that's working pretty well. We'll see. It's a new year. Let's see if we're working on YouTube also. All right, I think we are. Make sure here. Beautiful. All right, I am Drew Badger, the founder of EnglishAnyone.com and the English Fluency Guide, and welcome to another live video here on YouTube. Welcome to 2025. Nice to see everybody there. I wanted to do just something because of my nice vacation. Hopefully you guys all had a nice vacation as well. I had a lot of time with my family and just enjoyed a nice Christmas with them and some time off of school and some traveling. Hope you all had a nice vacation as well. I spent a lot of time playing some games with my kids. They got some new games for Christmas as well. And one of those, I thought it would be interesting to make a video about this. This is a game called Battleship. We've played this many times. Let me know if you know what this game is. I thought I would have like, you know, just like an interesting, you know, explanation about how the game works and how it relates to fluency, because I had an interesting idea about this. But I'll check comments right quick. Let me know if you know what this game is. So I will take some time to explain it for people who don't know, but it's an interesting game for kids, and I think you guys would probably enjoy it. Now, let me take a look. Comments very quickly here. Where did comments go? Are they still? Oh, okay, they are still here. Now that changed too. Nice to see you there, George and Louis and Diana and Adam and George and Renee. Greetings from Brazil. And Adam says, I can't speak. I have 4 months. I learned, but nothing. Oh, well, that's unfortunate. Hopefully, if you have any specific questions, let me know. But I want to talk in this video. I want to use this game of Battleship. I'll explain how this works. I haven't seen that anybody knows what the game is. Do you know what this game is? Have you ever seen this before? So this is actually half of the game. I'll open it up for you just so you can see how it looks on the inside. It's a kind of try to find where the boats are game, and each player has one of these things. So I would be looking at this one, and the player on the other side would have their own game board, the same kind of thing. But what you're doing is you're taking these boats. I'll get these 5 boats over here. So here's one of them. This is an aircraft carrier, and you put them down wherever you like on the game board. So these are my boats down here, and the other player, these are their boats that I'm looking for. And so you take turns asking questions, trying to find where the boats are. So you would just say, like, is your boat on, for example, A5? So we have this grid here with the numbers across the top and the letters across the side, and if they have a boat on that space, then we can put a red. So if they do have a boat, we put a red peg in there, and if they do not, then we have a white peg there. So the goal is to find the 5 boats, or depending on how you play the game, if you're just trying to find the battleship, which is this guy right here. So the little 4 space boat. So again, you just put them anywhere you like. And then the goal is to try to find these as fast as possible. So just by asking, where are you? And so usually what happens is if you get a hit, so you're asking the player, like someone asks me, hey, is your boat on C4? So yes, I will get a hit like this. The boat is on C4, and then you don't know which way is it, like is it going up and down or left and right? So you ask again, like, is the boat on C5? No, so we know it's not over here. It still could be this way or up and down. So there is a 2 boat like this. So it's only got 2 spaces on it. And then we have others as well, but there are 5 different boats that you need to find. That's the basic idea, and whoever finds the boats first is the winner of the game. So some people are mentioning that they have played this on paper. This is actually commonly used in English lessons, not the physical game like this, but you can use a grid like this when you are asking people questions, like you put like how are you or I am or something like that, and then you can make different sentences by combining these two things. Anyway, the reason why I wanted to talk about Battleship is because I was thinking, as I played the game with my girls, that there's a really interesting metaphor here for how people try to learn English and how people try to speak. So usually what happens is, let me erase the title of today's video, The Cheat Code. And then we'll get into it. Oh, nice to see you there, Annette. And I wouldn't have Will that game. Oh, you mean like wouldn't win? Well, the interesting thing about Battleship is that it's not really a game of strategy. I mean, maybe there are some strategies, but basically you're just guessing like where somebody is. So you think maybe the boat is over here or something like that, but you don't really know. So you're just guessing. But if you could, the kind of cheat code for the game would be knowing where the other players' boats are before you start the game. And obviously that would make it maybe not very interesting, but this idea of instead of trying to guess where the boats are, you would actually just know where they are, and the game would be much easier for you. All right. So when I was thinking about this, it occurred to me the way people often try to learn English is this typical way of playing Battleship. So let me explain. Usually what happens when people are I think I'll use blue today. So people are in a conversation, and the first thing they experience is some kind of doubt or uncertainty. So even before the conversation begins, you're nervous about whether you'll say something correct or if your pronunciation is correct, your grammar or whatever, or if you're understanding people properly or how to connect things. There are lots of different worries that people have when they're in conversations. So if the first thing you experience even before you get into a conversation is doubt, then that's going to lead to a lot of problems going through the conversation. So just trying to walk through what happens to people when they're feeling this way. When you begin with doubt, here are the couple of different things that happen as a result of that. And it's a lot like playing a game of Battleship, because you begin by just thinking about what you want to say, but you're not really certain about it, but you're really just guessing. So you guess what you want to say, in the same way that I might be playing Battleship and I doubt where the other players' boats are. So I don't know where they are. I know they're somewhere. I have some kind of idea. Obviously, they're on this board somewhere. I don't know where exactly they are, but I'm just guessing. So the only thing I can do is guess, and hopefully I say something correct. All right, so we don't, like, I just say, okay, is your boat on C5? And the other person says yes or no. So you just try to say things, and like you make a guess, you're just thinking in your mind, okay, maybe I'm translating, maybe I have to think about exactly what I want to say. I have to organize my sentences in my head before I speak. And then you try to speak, but you're not very confident. So you try to speak. This is the speaking part. So after you begin with some kind of doubt, you're not really sure what you want to say. So you guess. You're not really sure. Again, you're beginning with doubt. Then you try to speak, and you hope you say something correctly. You can just say, hope you're correct. So again, same thing, exactly the way a game of Battleship would be played, because you're not sure what happens. So obviously the next step here, when you're playing a game of Battleship, I don't know where the boats are. So I'm going to guess, and then I say, okay, is your boat on C4 or whatever? And the person says yes or no. So they give me some kind of feedback. And here is what a lot of learners are looking for when they're telling me, or just thinking in general, I need to have a personal teacher who can correct my English. Okay, it's exactly the same way a game of Battleship would be played. So it's my turn. I don't know where the players are, so I can only guess. And then I tell the player, hey, are you on this place? And the player says yes or no. And then I use that English, and maybe for next time, hopefully, like if I get feedback, and you do get feedback in a game like Battleship, you know if you're correct or not, because either you hit a boat or you do not. Very simple. But in a regular conversation, maybe you don't get feedback, maybe you do. So if you're talking with a teacher, that teacher might correct you, but a lot of times people are saying things they're not correct and they don't get corrections. So they're thinking, okay, I need someone there who's actually going to correct every single thing I say. So they make all these errors, and then hopefully they say something, and then hopefully they remember. So remember for next time. And that's the basic idea. So that's how Battleship works. So you're playing the game, you begin with doubt, you don't know where the boat is, especially at the beginning of the game. So I'm thinking these are my boats down here, and these are the other players' boats up here. And I'm just asking questions, is the boat here, or is the boat here, is the boat there? If I get something correct, even then I'm still not sure where the boat is. So if I got it up here, the boat could be here. Like let's just say I put their boat, I imagine the boat, it could be like this, or it could be here, or even up and down this way. So it's more difficult for me to know exactly where people are because I'm beginning with doubt. And that's the whole point of the game of Battleship. Can you quickly find the other player's boats? But it's not particularly strategic because really you're just guessing from the very start. Okay? So I thought it would be interesting to talk about this because the whole idea about what I do is, instead of beginning with doubt, what if you knew where the other players' boats were? What if you knew that instead of having doubt, what if you knew where the players' boats were? You would just say, ding, 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 you know exactly where the boats are, and you win the game very quickly. Okay? Now, it would probably not be a very fun game because you're cheating in the game by knowing what that is, but in a regular conversation, you're not. It's not cheating at all to know what other people are going to say, and you feel very confident about the conversation before you speak. So wouldn't you rather do that? Okay? So if there is a cheat code for being able to speak fluently, it's not having doubt before you begin a conversation. In the same way that if I know exactly where the other players' boats are, I know they have a boat here and here and here, that's my cheat code. So I know exactly where the boats are, and I can find all of them very easily because there's no guessing. I don't feel unconfident or worried about what I'm going to say. All right? So again, remembering from the basic idea of how people learn English, most of the lessons and training people get, it doesn't answer all of your doubts, or it causes you more doubts. It makes you ask more questions. You don't feel certain, so you don't communicate fluently. And so it creates all of these problems just because of this one thing here, feeling doubt about your English before you get into a conversation. So when you try to speak, you have to guess. You speak, you say something, but you're not really confident about it. You hope you're correct. Then hopefully you get some feedback. Maybe you don't. Maybe you're just talking and the other person listening to you, they know you're making some kind of mistakes or something doesn't sound very natural, and they don't say anything because that would be impolite. So even a teacher sometimes may not correct all of your English unless you're specifically asking for that. And then hopefully if you get a correction, to remember that for next time so you don't make the same mistake twice. But often we do. We often make the same mistakes again and again, and that's just part of remembering and how people learn, where if you don't really remember it, you don't have a good reason for remembering it or a good way to remember something, we often forget it for next time. So I see this this same process, the same battleship process happening for English learners who don't feel confident. Again, if you begin with doubt, you begin with a lack of confidence, you don't feel very fluent even before you speak, then it doesn't matter how many speaking opportunities you get, because having more chances to speak isn't going to help you if you still feel doubt when you do speak. All right? But if you could, instead of feeling this way, we'll just erase this over here. So we contrast this with, instead of feeling doubt, you feel certain when you speak. So if you felt certain before you had a conversation, so that way anytime, it doesn't matter, you're going to be walking outside and unexpectedly you meet a friend or you go to a store or something and you have to speak, you feel certain about that communication. You feel certain that you will speak correctly, that you will understand what the other person is saying. So when you feel certain, when you begin a conversation with certainty, there's no guessing. What would you have to guess about? Because you already know what's correct. So you speak fluently. This is the only difference here. Feeling doubt versus feeling certainty before you get into a conversation. So when I first came to Japan, I felt lots of doubt all the time, and that's why I didn't want to speak. So I would hear people, and some people maybe tried to speak with me, but I was very shy and nervous about speaking because I had all this doubt. I had all these questions. I didn't know if something was going to be correct or not. I wasn't sure about how to express myself, if I should say this word or that word. And even if I remembered something, I couldn't connect all these things together to form fluent communication. So I couldn't speak continuously and continue flowing with my words. So all of these things are doubts before you get into a conversation. But today, I feel certain. Now, this isn't necessarily being perfect. I might still make some mistakes with my Japanese, but I feel certain and confident when I speak. So I can walk out of this room right now, I'm in Nagasaki, Japan, and I could talk with anybody. And I wouldn't feel nervous discussing anything, even if I didn't know much about the subject, because I could probably learn about it and communicate with people anyway. So this one difference in how you learn can change everything about how you speak. And this is the certainty before you speak. That is the cheat code that allows you to communicate automatically. So what I'm suggesting to people here, so if we draw a line, I want to make this simple. Let me know if this idea makes sense. So this is this part here, this kind of flow. This is what happens when you speak. This is what happens when you speak. So you begin with doubt, and then you guess, you try speaking, you try to get some feedback, maybe you try to remember next time, but usually this process just repeats itself. So you make the same mistake again, and hopefully you get a correction, and maybe you do, maybe you don't remember for the following situation. So these are the same things over here. If you feel certain when you speak, then you know what's correct, and you speak fluently, because why wouldn't you? You know what's correct. You don't have any doubts. So if you have doubt, then you're lacking confidence. And if you have confidence, then you don't have any doubt. You can't really have both of those at the same time. But this is what happens when you speak. And the reason this happens is because of how people learn. So we'll just say this is the speaking part of the process here, and we'll just put an L up here for the learning part. So in the learning part, typically when people are learning languages, they're not really being prepared for real communication. And this means you might hear, like me right now, you're getting one example or one voice from one person, but typically in an English lesson you would get maybe one voice. You would have a teacher who's telling you things, and they're telling you one correct way to say something. But in real life, people speak many different ways, and often they don't speak very clearly. They might mumble, they might have difficult accents, and they might say things that you're not prepared for. So even if I learn good morning from my teacher, another person in real life might say, how's it going? How's it going. And they might blend that together like, how's it going? How's it going? How's it going? And if I'm not prepared for that before the conversation, then I'm probably going to feel quite nervous when I speak. All right? So the preparation up here, it's a different kind of preparation required for communication because communication is unpredictable. So I don't know what other people are going to say. I don't know how they're going to say it. It's not like trying to practice an instrument or even taking a speech and trying to memorize that, because I'm not controlling everything in a conversation. In a real conversation, I don't know what other people will say. So we need a different kind of training that will prepare us for that. Okay, we need to be able, number one, to feel certain, but we also need to feel certain about how to connect our ideas and be able to continue speaking so we don't get stuck. So even me, right now, as I'm explaining this, I don't have a script in front of me. I didn't memorize anything, but I'm able to speak fluently. I have certainty about what I'm saying, and I understand how to connect ideas because of how I learned. Okay. Now, I want to stop here. I'll go back and look at questions, but let me know if this makes sense. But the point here is typically when people are learning, they're not learning in a way that prepares them for real communication. So they're not seeing lots of good examples of how natives communicate, how natives connect their ideas when they speak. They're usually just getting lists of vocabulary, and they even don't understand those all in English. Often they're learning through translations, and that causes even more doubt. So because you have uncertainty in communication, and communication is a stressful thing if you don't feel certain about what you're saying, or you don't feel certain that you will be able to handle yourself or to feel prepared in a conversation. And so that leads to all these problems, and this is why a lot of people know a lot of English, but they still avoid speaking anyway, because they feel doubt, and they know they're going to experience all these things that don't feel very good when you're trying to communicate with somebody else and you can't really express yourself, or you don't understand what they're saying. So instead of feeling doubt, wouldn't you rather feel certain before you speak? Wouldn't you? Let me know. I'm going to check comments as I go back, but this is the basic idea, and this just struck me as I was playing Battleship. Like, look at this. It's exactly the same thing that happens when people are learning. And if you knew or you felt confident and certain before the game started, like if I knew where that player's boats were, then of course I would win. I would feel very confident. I would win immediately. I say, oh, okay, your boat is here, here, and here, and here. Okay, so you can do the same thing. It would be cheating, and it wouldn't be very fun in a game of Battleship, because the point is just trying to guess and see who can guess faster, really. But in real communication, you can cheat. You can know what other people are going to say, and you can feel certain before the conversation begins. Okay. All right. Let's look at comments, questions, see if anybody, let me know if this makes sense. All right. I'm trying to break this down, but the most important thing here is, how do you feel before the conversation begins? Do you feel excited about having conversations, or do you feel nervous about having conversations? All right. Let's see. Okay. So some people have played this game again. Amber says, Happy New Year. I hope you and your family had a good Christmas. Yep, we did. That's exactly what we're talking about in this video. Let's see. Stefan says, I can read, but I don't understand what he talking. You probably mean what he is saying or what I'm saying. Let's see. Citiline Lee, greetings from New York. Mr. Drew, can you tell when's going to be the next sale for Fluent for Life? Don't know exactly. We did do that last year, but if you were on our mailing list. So if you're already learning with me, like if you have Native Fluency Blueprint or something like that, you're already getting emails from me, then you will be notified if and when we do something. But if you'd like to learn more about Fluent for Life, you can also click on the link in the description below this video and learn more about how we do that. Because the point here, this is Fluent for Life. Rather than traditional methods, we actually make you feel confident and certain by erasing your doubts before you speak. That's the whole point of the program. All right, Sad says, Hi, teacher. I discovered you a few days ago and started listening to you and realized that you talk fastly in English, basically like B1. And because if I can understand the fast speech, thanks a lot. And also how I can open a topic with AI of OpenAI. I have no friends. Oh, no. I'm sure you have some friends, but even if people don't have anyone to talk with, yes, you can use ChatGPT to do this. One of the limitations, obviously, with ChatGPT is it's going to give you everything nice and clearly, and unless you tell ChatGPT how to teach you, it will usually just give you answers that you will probably forget. And this is a kind of tricky thing about learning, where if you just get a translation or a definition of something, it's usually more difficult to remember. But if you're able to discover the answer for something yourself, it becomes a lot easier. So I made a video specifically about how to use ChatGPT. If you're using that, this can be for like answering that question specifically, how to talk about a specific topic, or if you want even specific vocabulary, you want to know about something, but this is a prompt. So just look on my channel for the video about ChatGPT for that, and it will explain how to do that. But just remember also, for your first comment, the way I'm speaking in these videos is different from how I normally speak. So I'm making an effort to be slower, clearer, and making sure I'm not using a lot of difficult vocabulary or movie references and things like that that you might not know. All right. So that's, again, part of the reason people get into conversations after they've had lots of English lessons and they find that natives are using a different kind of English. So they're speaking more quickly. They're not using the same formal expressions or pronouncing things in the same way that they learned in school, because, again, the language is unpredictable. It's really difficult to communicate if you feel doubt in that situation. But if you see lots of examples of natives communicating before you speak, then you will feel a lot more confident in conversations. All right, Hassan says, hello, sir, how are you? Why you always start with doubt, not confidence? Because most people are here because they feel doubt. So I'm beginning where people are. So obviously it would be great to begin with confidence and certainty. That's what we do for learners in Fluent for Life. And whether you learn with me or not, this should be the goal. So you should be feeling confident and certain before you get into your conversations. And I'm saying what I call the strangest fluency secret is that you can actually do this by getting lots of good examples from native speakers and seeing how other people talk about things. So instead of learning the language, like I would learn English by getting a list of words or something like that, I want to see how people put those things together. It's like the difference between getting some Lego pieces, like a bunch of little square Lego pieces, and you put them together to build something, just like any kind of block thing. So if someone just gives me a bag of Lego pieces, maybe I am creative and I can take those pieces and build something with it. But it becomes a lot easier if other people just tell me how to build something. So here are the specific instructions and how you would do that. So anyway, when people are typically learning a language, it's like they get all these bricks, but they don't really feel confident about how those bricks connect with other bricks, because they're just collecting more bricks instead of spending time seeing how natives connect those bricks. And so as you get examples of that, this is part of what we do in Fluent for Life, but that's what actually prepares you for real communication. Let's see. And Mosen says, I think native English speakers don't do these things. Yes, if you're talking about these things over here, no, native speakers don't have to do these things because they don't have doubt about what they're saying most of the time. They're usually certainly they're certainly about the language they're using, even if they might not feel certain about, a particular topic or whatever. But they're certainly not worried about the language itself. Let's see, and Hassan again says, why in English language what we pronounce not the same what we write, not like in Arabic what we pronounce is the same with writing? I can't speak about Arabic, but certainly with English, often the pronunciation is the same. But what happens in conversations is people will shorten things. So if I'm reading this like going to. So it's written the same way I should say it or speak it. And going to, I'm speaking it nice and clearly. But in a real conversation, people don't need to say going to, like I am going to the store, because usually in a conversation, people will understand what I'm saying without pronouncing it so clearly. So I could say, yeah, I'm gonna do something. So this is why we would shorten this to something like gonna. So I'm gonna do something. So instead of I'm going to do something, I'm gonna do that thing. Because people understand that, and it's faster and easier to say. So the actual way you would write it phonetically, like this way, like gonna, that changes as well. But if you're actually going to read English like the way it's spelled, it's usually the same pronunciation. Let's see. Bashir says, hello, Badger. I used to hear you say I am Drew Badger instead of Badger. I'm Drew Badger instead of Badger. Well, I don't just say Badger by itself. I don't think I've ever done that. Presumptions are deceptive when you work out your brain instead of listening carefully. I am Drew Badger instead of Drew. You like misheard me say that. I see. Drew Drew. Yes, I guess if you're not used to the name, then it would be more difficult for you. Mr. Lerner says, you are amazing, sir. Glad to hear it. If you are enjoying the stream, do click that like button. What do you, I guess talking with each other. All right, Neil says, or Annette says, to me it makes sense. Glad to hear it. Adam says, I want to speak the cowboy accent. What should I do? All right, now somebody asks me this question. I want to speak like this or sound like this. What would be my advice, do you think? Especially people who have followed me for a while, what would I recommend this person do? So anybody who wants to sound like this or talk like a particular thing, whatever that is, what would be my advice? What do you think? Let's see if you can figure this out. I bet you could. I'll come back to that if I don't see an answer. But for Adam's question, I want to speak the cowboy accent. What should I do? What would I recommend? All right, Dennis says, I'm nervous because I don't know if I know their vocabulary. Yeah, so again, that's another thing, like there can be lots of doubts in conversations about your English or what you think other people are going to say. So it's much different or much more different than trying to speak by yourself to yourself. So if I'm just talking to myself, I'm trying to have a conversation to practice my English or something, just talking to myself, it's going to be much different, or it's just a much different environment because I can't control what other people are going to say. So of course, when I'm talking to myself, it's easy. I feel more confident and comfortable, and I might not even notice my own mistakes. But when I'm speaking with someone else, now things are changing, and I don't know what other people are going to say. I have to be prepared for those communication situations. And again, the problem you might have is just doubt about what the other person would say. Even if you feel confident about your own words, we don't know what you might say. Let's see. And Adam says, just try and practice makes perfect. Yeah, so I would not give that advice about like practice makes perfect. And the reason we don't do practice makes perfect is because it's doing this kind of battleship approach, which takes a really long time and it's very frustrating. Instead, wouldn't you rather just feel certain before you speak? What if I knew what other people were going to say and how to respond to those people, and I knew the kinds of responses that people might say? If I knew all that before the conversation, I would feel very confident. Okay? So instead of getting into a conversation and feeling doubt and then trying to guess and then say something and then get feedback and hopefully I remember something if I said it incorrectly, I don't want to do all that. Do you want to do all that? Hopefully not. The people who are usually the people who are watching my channel are the people who don't want to have doubt in conversations. They want to feel confident and certain. And I'm saying what most people think happens, this is the kind of typical thing that people think is happening, is they feel doubt when they have conversations, but if they keep speaking more, they can erase this doubt. And that's true. All right. It just takes a really long time, and it's a very inefficient way to do that. And maybe it doesn't happen. Okay, so it is possible to have lots of conversations, but most people can't really do that. You're not speaking all the time, or you don't have a lot of time to speak in English or have people to speak with anyway. So there are lots of reasons why it doesn't work, even if you have lots of opportunities to speak. So it is possible to become fluent this way, but it's a really frustrating way, like playing a game of Battleship, where I'm always guessing about where something is. It would be much faster and easier if I just knew where the boats were. Okay? So in conversations, yes, like when people talk about practice makes perfect, that's what they think they're doing. Okay, I'm going to speak more even though I feel doubt. I want to push myself to try to make myself feel confident. It doesn't feel very good. It's frustrating. I maybe don't have many opportunities to speak, so I'm going to do all these things. And maybe, hopefully, over time, after enough conversations, I will feel more confident. Maybe. Okay? It's not guaranteed, but maybe you will feel confident and certain after that. So it is possible to improve this way. But remember, when people talk about practice, like practice makes perfect, what exactly are you practicing? Remember that in conversations, it's unpredictable. You don't know what other people are going to say. So how do you practice for the unpredictable? Okay? Learning how to communicate with people and you don't know what they're going to say, this is not the same thing as trying to learn to ride a bicycle or trying to practice an instrument or learning a punch or some kind of sports move or something like that. With something like that, like if I want to try to draw, like let's say I'm trying to learn how to draw, I don't know, whatever, some kind of character. I want to learn how to draw a smiley face. Very simple. So let's say the first time I draw it, my circle is not very good. Oh no, my eyes don't look very good, and I don't know. Is that a good smiley face? Not really. But I keep practicing because I know what a smiley face should look like. So the next time I draw it, it's like, oh, look at that. My circle is a little bit better. Here are the eyes on there, and that looks a little bit better. Look at that. Practice makes perfect, right? See, I have a very specific goal of a particular smiley face I want to make. So I can practice that until I get to the point where I can do it perfectly. Because there is a specific goal you want to get to. So look at that. My circle is getting better. Look, that's a pretty good circle. And let's say I draw, here's one eye over here, and look at that. That's pretty good smiley face. Look at that. So my first try was not very good. Second one was okay. Third one, this is better than my usual drawing. All right. So this is what people think is happening when they talk about practice making perfect. But again, there is a specific final end, a specific one thing I'm trying to do. But in conversations, it's unpredictable. I don't know what other people are going to say. So I can't practice in the same way that I just say a phrase over and over again. So my teacher tells me a phrase. I practice it how are you? How are you? How are you? I say that over and over again. I feel confident about that phrase. But in a conversation, what if somebody says something different? What if their pronunciation is something I'm not used to? What if they speak too quickly? They could say anything. And what am I going to do? My teacher told me one thing to say, and I practiced that. I was a good student. Practice makes perfect. Okay? It's a different thing. This is not like trying to practice an instrument or a sport or something like that. Practice does not make perfect in this way. What you need to do is adapt your mind for flexibility to be able to respond to different kinds of people and to change if you need to change things in conversations. All right? So you can't do that same kind of thing. And this is why I don't just tell people, hey, practice makes perfect, get out there and practice. What I want people to do is feel certain about their English by seeing lots of other different natives communicating. If you watch people communicate and you do it strategically, you learn how people are using the language and you can understand things exactly, then you feel confident when you get into conversations. It's that simple. All right? So just be careful recommending about people going to like practice more until you feel confident, because it's a really painful way to learn. And the problem is really that teachers are not making the language certain, or you're not making learners feel certain about what they know. That's the real problem. So it's not what you're doing in a conversation. It's like before you have a conversation, the teacher didn't help you feel confident about what you're learning. All right, Lewis says, I disagree with Sad. Your way that you speak is very clear. Yeah, well, yes, so my speaking right here. Chat GPT, so Chat GPT. This is artificial intelligence that you can speak with, and you can have some very interesting conversations with it. But you have to be careful about how you're learning with AI, because number one, it can make mistakes, and number two, the bigger problem that most people don't think about is that it's giving you nice, clear, easy English, and it's not preparing you for all the variety of the unclear, fast, or various accents that you would hear in real life. So we don't have that with ChatGPT or like typical AI learning. So people can learn languages, but learning a language is different from being able to communicate fluently in that language. So I can memorize a bunch of phrases, but that doesn't mean I can use them all confidently and fluently. All right, so again, one for example, goes and does are different vowel sounds. You're talking about that. I see. Sure. Yeah, so there are examples like that. English can be tricky in that way, where we have, like, I mean, even this, like, we could take a word like, how do we say this word? It depends on the context, actually. If we're talking about read, like I am reading a book, or we could say I read a book. It's the exact same word, but we pronounce it differently depending on the situation. I don't want to go into like the history of all that, which is interesting, and part of that is getting words from different languages and how the language evolves over time, and there are people who talk about this much more in depth than I do, but you can certainly look for that information. But yeah, so some of this it's just getting lots of examples and making sure you understand for the context how people speak. And this is why I often say it's very important to connect the situation with the vocabulary you're using. So you learn a word like read for talking about I am reading a book, but then you learned, I read a book yesterday. And so your brain thinks, that's interesting. It's the exact same word, but we pronounce it differently depending on the situation. All right, let's see. Lewis, actually, I don't live in a country English speaking, so I don't mind speaking a lot, but I can speak to someone normally. All right, how to unlock many aha moments while I'm speaking. So this is an interesting thing, like the Hassan is asking about aha moments. This is where you discover things, or you learn language and think like, so I had an aha moment when I was playing Battleship and thinking, wow, this is a lot like how people communicate, and Battleship can be a frustrating game for that reason. So we play it sometimes, but usually my daughters, they kind of get tired of it very quickly because it's a slow game, and they're just basically guessing. There's not a lot of strategic thinking required for it. But so that's an aha moment, is you make a connection that allows you to remember something. I'm trying to think about one I had recently, or like my kids. All right, this is kind of a topic for another video I thought I would do, but I'll give you an example of it now. So in the same way that we get a word like read, but we can also read it as read, so we can pronounce it in two different ways. Often what happens when natives are learning a language, they can connect directly with some kind of situation and some kind of vocabulary, whatever that is. So as an example, let's say, what's the thing I like for my daughters or whatever? They know the word short. So when they hear something like this, they usually connect it as a kind of contrast, like a short thing versus a long thing like that. So instead of getting a translation, they get a kind of aha moment where they understand, one thing is short and another thing is long, like that. Now what's interesting is that they understand, just like the word read here, they will get different meanings of the word or slightly different ways of thinking about it that give them more aha moments and help them understand it even better, so they feel more confident and certain when they speak. And they're doing all of this even before they say anything. So they're just getting examples and hearing how people might use the language. For example, this word short here. So most people watching this video probably know, like, hey, this thing is short versus something being long, short or long. But you might also think about someone being short on money or short of funds. I'm a little bit short this month. I'm a little bit short this month. That means it's a kind of similar example where we don't have as much as we need, so we're kind of short on something. So I'm short on cash. It means I don't have very much money, or I don't have as much money as I need. So let's say I go to a store and buy this eraser. This eraser costs, we'll just say $5, but I only have in my pocket $4.50. I'm short. Okay? And so when people hear this, they're connecting this situation with the vocabulary, and you have an aha moment that's like, oh, that's interesting. Look at that. Something is short, like we understand short and long, but now I can understand like I'm like I need to get from $0 up to $5 over here. That's like, this is the goal. But oh no, I came up short. So I didn't get exactly, look at that, I'm too short. I'm not long enough. And so we can use the vocabulary in this way. And so when you're talking about getting more aha moments, the way to get lots of those is the same way I teach in Fluent for Life, where you're getting lots of good examples of how natives use the language, but you're also learning strategically. So for my kids, like let's say when they're 1 year old or 2 year old or 3, they learn short and long. And so they know that definition. But as they get older, they hear more examples that give them a deeper understanding of a word. So this seems like a simple word, but actually we could use it in many different ways that are related. So as natives get these examples, they're still connecting the situation to the vocabulary. But look at that. Like now we have a few different situations that are related. And so this gives us a much deeper and more confident understanding of the word short. So as you get lots of good examples of things like that, that's how you develop this real certainty with using the language. So for me, like when I learn a new word in Japanese, I don't want to just get one example. I want to hear like, how else might this be used? Like I heard a word like serifu, which is it's just like a saying or phrases or something like that. And then there's also like kimezerifu, which is like a catchphrase. And I thought, oh, that's really interesting. So I'm looking specifically for strategic examples. And when I mean strategic, it's like as soon as you learn something, how quickly can you learn more examples of that thing? And this is one way to give yourself more aha moments. So if you're trying to do this in real life by yourself, then just get lots of examples of the kind of English you want to speak. So if you want to talk about farming, then get lots of examples about whatever. So it doesn't matter what the topic is, and you can probably find most of that on YouTube. Even difficult stuff about, I don't know, whatever, technical subjects in various industries or, science or something like that. But that's how you do it. So we're not looking to memorize a word with a translation. We want to understand a word, connecting that vocabulary with a situation, and then as we see more uses of that word, it will help us feel much more confident about it. All right, so that's a very long answer to your question, but a lot of people are wondering about how they develop fluency like that, and that's how you do it. So you get more examples of things that erase doubt. That's really the goal. So whenever if you feel uncertain about something like a grammar point or pronunciation or whatever, get more examples of that. You don't need to try to get like a specific rule or something. It's more get more examples that help you understand that thing like a native rather than a translation or a definition. Let's see. see. And Adam says, what's your advice to speak in a cowboy accent for me, sir? I like that way you teaching. Thanks a lot. All right, since nobody gave me that yet, the answer is spend a lot of time watching cowboy movies or watching, videos about people with a particular accent on YouTube. That's it. It's really that simple. If I want to know how to do something, I should spend my time learning about that thing. And if I want to learn to have a particular accent, then I should spend my time watching that. So that's why people, like young people in cowboy families, they start sounding like cowboys because they're just listening to all of those examples. So again, you can do all of this before you speak, even before you say a word. You can spend a lot of time up here feeling certain about things because you're getting lots of examples. Like if a cowboy says things in a certain way or with a certain accent, that's how you would start using them. And you would know, oh, in this situation, a cowboy would probably say this. Or in this situation, here are a few different ways of expressing something. Okay? So it doesn't matter if you have people around you to speak English or you don't live in an English-speaking country. Like all of this happens before you speak. Before you speak. So you're not waiting for, like the typical way that people try to learn is this practice makes perfect thinking where, okay, I need to first find someone to speak with. But oh no, I don't feel certain about my speaking. So you can see the problem here. It seems like a very frustrating way to learn. So I want to begin, I need to speak in order to improve. So I need to do this, like the practice makes perfect thing. I find someone to speak with, but oh no, I don't feel confident, and then I go through these steps, and it's a very painful way to try to improve. So instead of trying to improve in the conversation itself, now you can do this, and you will do this. It will happen more easily for you as you start learning the native way. But if you can do that, if you can feel confident before you speak, you don't need anyone physically with you. You just need lots of examples of the language, and you can get that online anytime you like right now. So this is part of what we do in Fluent for Life. But again, the point is to feel confident before you speak, not to try to get into a conversation and spend a lot of time trying to learn in the conversation itself. Let's see. Bridget says, lately I'm noticing myself not rehearsing what I have to say, but allowing my words to flow. Thanks for you banging on about doubts. I'm getting the understanding. Awesome. That's great. So when you're in a conversation, you shouldn't have to have that like guessing period where you're like unsure about the words or you're rehearsing things or organizing sentences in your head before you speak. You just know what you want to say. And you develop that by seeing lots of examples of how natives do it. All right, so not just listening to teachers tell you specific things like in this situation we say this, or here's the one correct way to pronounce things. It's just not true. I mean, you get into a real conversation and people will say things differently. They will pronounce things a little bit differently too, or they might have a different accent or whatever. People on this channel will know I had a family friend. This was a Southern from the United States, like Southern United States. I think she was from Georgia. And so she had a nice Southern accent, and she would say, like in kind of the way I would ask you here is, do you want some pie? Like after dinner for dessert, do you want some pie? And she would say, y'all want some pie? Y'all want some pie? Y'all want some pie? So if you go to an English class and the teacher says, do you want some pie? But in the real world, people don't speak like that. They say, y'all want some pie? Y'all want some pie? Or just you want some pie? You want some pie? So we don't even say do you. It's just you want some pie? You want some pie? So again, this is why instead of trying to learn one specific way of saying something from a teacher, you get lots of varied examples. This is that naturally varied review where we see different people talking about things. If you see those different examples, then you learn how to get fluent because you feel confident because you've seen so many examples. It's the same way you got fluent in your native language. You hear your dad say something and your mom says something and your friends and your teachers. And as you get all those examples, you integrate all of that together and it makes you feel confident and certain before you speak. Okay, so you don't have to spend your time trying to learn more or trying to practice things in conversations and not feel confident about it. You can do all that before you speak. Why not feel confident and certain before you speak? I know it seems like such an odd thing to do, but the easiest way to remember this is that the idea of practice makes perfect, that works for things where we have a specific outcome, where I have a goal like trying to draw this smiley face over here. But in real communication, it's unpredictable. We don't know what other people will say. So before I speak, it's probably a good idea if I see lots of different people talking about things. So if I know today I'm having a conversation about, I don't know, how to have an ant farm. You know what this is, an ant farm? I don't know why I'm thinking about that. But as an example, it's like having a little plastic or glass case in your house. You put a little bit of dirt in it, and then ants, you watch them make little tunnels like that. You know, the ants are climbing around inside. This is called like an ant farm. So you keep this in your room, and the glass is very thin, so you can watch the ants crawl around in there. Now, if I know today I'm going to be going to my friend's house and he has an ant farm, and I don't know much about ant farms or talking about the English, even in English, like I can do the same thing in English, it's probably a good idea if I watch a few videos on YouTube about ant farms. Don't you think that would prepare me before I get to my friend's house? Of course it would. If I watch 10 videos up here about ant farms, then when I get to my friend's house, I'm going to feel quite confident and certain, maybe not perfect, but I will feel very confident and certain about like how to talk about ant farms. All right? It's the same for anything. You can prepare for it before the conversation. You don't have to wait for somebody to speak with, because it's not practice makes perfect. It's really like training your brain the same way you train an AI to understand language. You give it lots of good examples, but if you do it strategically, making sure you're watching a bunch of things or reading a bunch of things about ant farms or whatever, that's what's going to prepare you before you speak. Does anyone not want to feel prepared before they speak? I just want to make sure if anybody is in the wrong video right now. Let me know. Does anybody like doing this? I don't like doing this. I hate getting into a conversation and not knowing, and this is how my experience for learning languages was for 15 years, even when I had people to speak with who were native speakers. So even living in Japan for a year and trying to learn the language, I would still feel doubt in conversations. I would guess, try to organize sentences and translate. Then I would say something. Usually it wasn't correct, or I didn't feel very confident as I said it. I would wait for some feedback, and usually, like, Japanese people are not going to correct me if I say something wrong, unless it's my family or a teacher or something like that. And so I usually won't get a correction, but if I do, maybe I will remember it, maybe I will not, and then the process will repeat itself the next conversation. It's really frustrating. So it occurred to me, well, why don't I prepare before I speak? Doesn't that seem like a reasonable thing to do? All right, just remember this practice makes perfect idea. It's like practice makes perfect. That's a true idea for things that have a specific outcome, but conversations do not. Okay, you never know what people are going to say. So there are patterns you can learn, but it's much better to spend time watching other people do things like that. Let's see, make sure I'm talking for a long time about these. Bashir says the pronunciation of some words in English is delusional. I come across a word like civilization. Ham natives pronounce the I, the short I instead of I, like in I. Yes, and again, that's part of the language. So each language or culture has its own imperfections or whatever, but that's, it's typically easy to learn that. And if children can do it, we can do that as adults. All right, and it says perfect. Oh, look at that, with a medal and a smiley face. Awesome. In addition, they are copying at me. Copying at you. You mean copying you? You would just say to copy someone. Where is the alarm? I missed it. I don't know about alarm. You mean a notification? I don't know why YouTube doesn't really tell people about my notifications. So thank you for joining me if you are here. But YouTube often does not for whatever reason. It's probably because I turned off monetization. It's either because my videos are bad, which is possible, or it's because I turned off monetization years ago. So that's why you don't see ads on most of my videos. Gen 1 says, did ChatGPT speak like native speakers nowadays? Yeah, it sounds pretty good. It sounds pretty good. Rennie says, Happy New Year from you, you and his lovely family. I'm from Brazil. Glad to hear it. Welcome. So Luis Carlos, what about, you guys are talking to each other. Fabio says, hello. Nice to see you there. Okay, you guys are talking. Dennis says, I give him my like. Thank you so much. It's my pleasure. I have to be a soothsayer. That's a great word, a soothsayer. Ganesh, nice to see you there. And all right, I'm a biomedical engineer. I'm certain about it, but when I'm into another topic in speaking, I feel my brain not like I'm brainwashed. I forget everything. Yes, and so when you, this is a perfect example of how you can talk about your job because you're getting all these examples of it before you speak. So you've spent lots of time studying a thing, you know it very well. So when you get into a conversation, then you feel confident. But for the things that you don't know very well, you don't feel confident. That makes perfect sense. Okay, everybody experiences that. Right now, I can speak very confidently about this topic because I know a lot about it. I spend a lot of time thinking about this, researching, talking with learners about it, but I couldn't tell you how to fix a motorcycle. I don't know how to do that. So if someone said, hey, Drew, please teach a lesson about fixing motorcycles, I would say, oh, no. I have a lot of doubt about fixing motorcycles. I don't know how to do that. But if I watched a bunch of people making like videos or whatever about fixing motorcycles and I spent some time with people doing it, I'm sure I would feel pretty confident about how to fix a motorcycle, probably. All right. The point here is that I don't try to like learn how to fix a motorcycle by like just trying to fix people's motorcycles. All right. I'd rather like see other people doing that and understand how to do it first. This is why people go to school before they actually become professionals at particular things. It's good to get experience doing it, but I wouldn't just have someone bring me their bike and say, please fix this because I don't know anything about doing that. Okay. So the point is, either you prepare before you get into the conversation or you do not, and then you feel doubt, and that's what causes all of the problems. Look at that, our first fire truck of the new year. All right, Lewis says, I live in Brazil, and my concern is improving my English every day, mainly understanding. Few times I talk to another person. Yes, so Lewis, remember, you don't need to spend your time speaking with others in order to improve your English. What you do need to do is spend time watching other people speak. Because even in conversations, the way we get most of our improvement is by learning new things from other people talking. If I'm only talking and maybe I say things correctly, maybe I don't, I improve a little bit by maybe feeling more confident just saying my words, but I'm actually learning way more from all the new information I get from other people, which helps me understand things better. So again, before you get into conversations, you can spend a lot of time learning about whatever, seeing lots of examples, and you don't have to wait for anybody, you don't have to wait for a teacher or a practice partner or anything like that. Brad says, hello, sir, and in Brazil, people often don't speak English. Yeah. So again, it doesn't matter where you live. Remember, people living in the United States or other English-speaking countries, they also have trouble communicating. All right, so why is that? It's because they feel doubt before they speak. They don't really feel confident about what they're going to say. But as they get more examples, they feel more confident, they feel more certain. When they have a conversation, they feel, wow, that was easy. I was able to express myself and say what I want to say. So don't wait. Don't think you need to have this situation here. Practice makes perfect. I'm going to spend a lot of time talking with people to improve. And if I don't have anyone to speak with, I can't improve. All right, that's not true. You spend your time up here getting lots of examples of other people speaking, just real natives talking about whatever it is you're interested in at your level. So for me, like, I might watch some Japanese kids shows or, some nature program or something, just like something that I can understand quite easily if it's something I'm interested in. So I might, depending on my level or what the particular topic is, I can learn about different things without me speaking. So I don't have to be there, like having someone to talk with. I can just get lots of examples of other people speaking. Because remember, the point is not to like be perfect about your speaking, it's to be able to communicate. And communication is unpredictable. So we can't prepare for communication the same way we prepare for riding a bike or practicing a sport or something like that. All right. So even when people do practice sports, there's a difference between like shooting a free throw, where you can just practice that by yourself. You don't really need to think about other people. But people play games because that's the kind of practice you need to do, like for actually developing skill within a game itself. But again, you don't need to have people to do this with. You just need to see lots of examples of people in the real world speaking. You can do that right here on YouTube, or this is what we do in Fluent for Life. We actually just show you how to do this. We give you all the examples. We make you feel confident before you speak. Wouldn't you like to feel confident before you speak? I know it seems like a weird question to me, but a lot of people have just been told this is how you're supposed to get fluent. And so they tell each other this same advice. Like, yeah, just get out and practice. Like, I don't want to do that. I don't have time for that. I want to feel confident before the conversation, not like hopefully after the conversation finishes. I want to feel confident before I speak. All right, Brad says, I want to learn English. Well, you're learning it right now. Welcome to the program. Spelling some vocabulary extremely hard. See how to be good at writing words correctly, and is it possible for me to learn how to write? Well, there are two different things. If you're talking about spelling specifically, you should get Frederick. Just click on the link in the description below this video. That's our app that will show you. Basically, it will give you like tons of aha moments. It will let you discover like how the pronunciation or the spellings of things work, but it will let you teach yourself instead of trying to memorize a bunch of rules. But go through that app and you will learn to be a good speller as a result of that. I had another good comment from somebody on that was like, oh, like Frederick taught my child to read. I said, look at that. That's exactly what we designed it to do. That's awesome. So do that. So there's the spelling part, and then there's actually being a good writer, which is a different kind of skill. So it's kind of like being a good communicator, where you're able to flow well in conversations. You can follow what other people are saying, and you're able to connect your words smoothly and quickly and correctly. So being a good writer, like being a good speaker, it often comes from getting lots of examples of other people speaking. That's how you do it. So get examples of other people writing, and you will feel more confident about that. Adam says, God bless you, sir. You have a great skills to deliver the informations to us. Thanks again. All right, I will correct this English. Thank you for that. So, God bless you, sir. You have a great skill, or you could just say you have great skills, or you could say you have a great skill, just in general talking about that, to deliver information. So information is uncountable, to deliver information. Could I create my own figures of speech, even if I'm not a native speaker? Sure, people do that all the time. I'm talking about the alarm that we hear while you're streaming. It's like a fire. It's not an alarm. It's like a fire, station or something like that, an ambulance. But I'm glad you can't hear it. If you can't hear it, let's see. One day, the textbook teachers. They will file a complaint about you in the police station because of your program. Now, it seems when people ask me like, why do more people not do this? Or why do people not know about this? The real answer is it's not necessary to do this, and it's faster to memorize some translations for a test. That's basically it. So if you think about being a teacher in a classroom, I have two ways of teaching. Like this way, it seems like a slower way to learn. It's actually not, because it speeds up over time. But if I have one class and I need my students to remember some things for a test, I'm just going to give them the translation of that and hope they remember that for the test. So they'll remember it for a week, but then the next week they will forget it. So the goal is not to prepare people for confident communication. It's just to pass the next test. So that's why most people don't know this. But obviously, if you use this approach, it will help you pass tests very quickly too. I would love to test this with anybody, but when I used to teach in the classroom, this is what I did. So actually preparing people for tests, but using the same method that gets them speaking as well. Because why not do both? You don't have to do only tests or only speaking. If you're a good speaker, you would be able to pass those tests easily as well. But yes, I don't know. I don't know if they'll call the police on me. Maybe they will. We'll see. Jefferson says, good evening, teacher. I just arrived from work. I'm in Brazil. Wow, look at that. Lots of people, lots of Brazilians over there. Susie says, hello, and Abdul says, sir, I understand other people's English, but I can't speak. How do I speak? Would you mind giving me the process to improve? Watch this video again. That is the process. Remember, the important thing, what I'm talking about in this video, since we've come to the end of comments here, just giving you a quick recap. This is a game I've played many times with my children. It's called Battleship. See if they have the title on there. I guess upside down. Battleship, where you're trying to look for the other players' boats in their little ocean. So I can put my boats wherever I like, and then we go back and forth asking questions. Is your boat here? Is your boat here? We try to find those boats. And so I thought it would be interesting to use this as an analogy, like a metaphor, for talking about how people learn speaking. So if people feel doubt, like you feel doubt when you're playing Battleship because you don't know where the boats are. So I begin by asking, is your boat here, or is your boat here, or something like that, and the other person says yes or no. And so it's very similar to the way people try to improve in conversations, where they say something, they're not sure about it, maybe they make a mistake, maybe they get feedback, maybe they improve, but there's a lot of maybe in this approach. So it is possible to improve, but it's a very frustrating and long and painful process. And wouldn't you rather just feel certain in conversations instead? So the cheat code for Battleship would be knowing where the boats are before you start the game. Because if I know where the other person's boats are, then I can kill their boats very quickly and I win the game. Now, obviously, this is cheating in a game of Battleship, and it wouldn't be very fun, but it would be fun in a conversation. And this is how natives communicate. So conversation is like, it's a fun and enjoyable experience because people know where the boats are. I don't have to spend my time guessing and thinking and wondering and trying to get feedback from the other person. I already have everything. Like, I don't feel doubt over here. So when I'm talking I meet my friends, I say, hey, let's go to the coffee shop and we can sit and talk for 2 hours about whatever. I would feel great about that. A lot of people would feel nervous about that, though. Wow, you want me to talk for, 5 minutes in English? I don't know if I can do that. They feel nervous about that. So if you feel doubt, it's easy to, instead of trying to have conversations and meet people to practice speaking with, just erase the doubt first. Erase the doubt before you get into conversations by seeing lots of examples of natives talking about things before you speak. All right? So if it is possible to improve this way, and some people do, but a lot of people struggle for many years because they're just like, wow, I don't have anyone to practice speaking with, or I feel shy and it's really difficult for me to communicate. So, okay then. It's you don't have to force yourself to speak. Spend your time with learning more to understand real communication better, and then you will learn what you should really be saying in different situations, and you will learn how to connect those things from natives the same way natives learn. It's really very simple. So you can choose which way you learn. All right? Both of them can get you fluent, but this way it's just a really frustrating and a long process if you learn it that way. And this works for any language you want to learn. We just help people do it in English with a program called Fluent for Life, and you can click on the link in the description below this video to learn more about that. Let's see. But I do recommend, this is like a good overview for comparing these different ways of learning and how people think about that. So if you're new to the channel, please go back and watch this video when we're done with it. Let's see. Hassan says, a subway, subtitle, submitted, submarine. What is the link between each of those words that starts with sub? It just means under or below, sub. So like when you think about all these things, the aha moment comes like, oh, wait a minute, like a submarine is under the water. It's like sub and marine, meaning like ocean water, whatever. So submarine. And we got subtitles. Now the interesting thing, I tell people a story about this, how my mom took me to an opera, like an opera play on a stage. And instead of having subtitles, usually the words at the bottom of a screen, they had a little screen because they had to translate it from Italian. The opera was in Italian, and they had the English translation above that. And I said, oh, look at that, Mom. Like the writing is above the screen, and it's above the screen so everybody can see it. If they put it under the screen, it would be hard for people to see it. But the subtitles are at the bottom, so the word for the ones above the screen, those are called supertitles. Supertitles. Isn't that interesting? So when I heard that from my mom, I thought, oh wow, that's really interesting. Just like Superman, you know. So like when we hear about like certain words, we start getting examples of them. It's the example I gave, like the word short. So when you hear about long and short, and then you hear a different usage of that, you really start feeling more confident, like, oh, I'm short on money, or I'm short on time. All right, so in those examples, it's similar to like a physical length of something, but we can use it in a slightly different way. And as you get more examples of that, you feel more confident. And the whole magic of all this, the strangest fluency secret, is that you can do all this before you speak. So even if you don't have anyone to practice speaking with, you can get lots of good examples of the language. And if you do this strategically, systematically, then you can be really feeling very confident when you do speak. So whenever you do have those conversations, you will feel much more confident. So that's the whole process and how it works. So when you get like, when you see a bunch of examples, like what is the link between these, try to think about that. You will get an aha moment for yourself. Like, oh, look at that. Like I think someone else just gave the example of submissive. To be submissive is like to put yourself below someone else, to be submissive. All right, or to subtract is to take away something else. So as you get all these different meanings of sub, the point is not to memorize all these things. It's to make the connection in your mind of like, oh, look at that. It's interesting that that we have these different connections in this way. So typically, when I hear the word sub something, I know it's probably going to mean below or under something else. Bashir says, how to practice pronunciation. I mean, sometimes I can just guess the right pronunciation. Get Frederick. It will teach you how to do that. Just click on the link in the description below this video. So if you want to learn pronunciation, first thing is understanding the individual sounds of English. And the second part of that is seeing lots of examples of natives pronounce things. That's how you do it. Abdul says, sir, is the Native Fluency Blueprint enough for me to speak in English? Yep, so the Native Fluency Blueprint, this is another program we have. It's for people who are independent learners and they just want to know how to improve. And we give you that, and we also explain, like we go through all this of explaining what the strangest fluency secret is. So that's some kind of bonus training we provide in email follow-up. Which is new for 2025 for new people in the program. But for people who just want to learn by themselves and they just want to know how to do it, yeah, Native Fluency Blueprint is just fine. For the people who want to get fluent faster, who want guaranteed fluency as quickly as possible, that's what we do for Fluent for Life. So you just decide what you want to do. You can certainly do this part. You can do all this by yourself. You can look for your own examples, try to teach yourself the language or find ways to do that. So that's basically how I learned Japanese. So I don't have a teacher telling me specific things, but I have lots of different examples that I use to try to understand the language better. All right. So I'd much rather have like a system set up just to make it really easy for me that erases all my doubts. I haven't found that for Japanese. If I do, that would be great. I would join that program. But fortunately, I can make that for English learners. So even if I can't like help myself so much, I can make it for you all, and that's what I did with Fluent for Life. But again, if you want to just know how to do things by yourself, then you can do that. Yeah, it's easy to do that by yourself, just getting lots of examples. So find the specific things you're interested in. You begin with the doubt. So what do you have a doubt about? I have a doubt about like pronunciation or talking about a certain topic or listening to certain accents, something like that. You can erase that doubt by yourself before you speak. George says, a couple cans, a shot of a six-pack. You would say very, very close there. A couple cans short of a six-pack. That's right. A couple cans short of a six-pack. For other people, this is a kind of common way of phrasing that someone is not very smart or there's a problem with them, like they're like a few cards short of a deck. So they like, again, the same idea of not having the complete amount of something required. So they have like some brain or some smarts, but not enough, or there's some kind of problem with them. But yeah, so a couple of cans short of a 6-pack. Let's see. MC, nice to see you there at last. Long time no see. Yeah, I never got that chocolate. I don't know what happened with that. I think probably someone at the post office is eating that. Truck says hi from Vietnam, and Sue says a thumbs up. Kids Entertainment, good morning, sir. And I said, how can I monitor my progress if I don't have a live teacher tracking my fluency rating? Well, how are you tracking your fluency rating now? For me, just when people are like, wait a minute, like how can I improve without a person telling me exactly what's wrong? That's this kind of thinking over here, where I need someone to give me feedback. But if you already know what's correct before you speak, what is the feedback for? When I'm talking with my friends in English, I don't need any feedback from them. I don't need them to correct me or anything. I already know what's correct. And so you can do the same thing in English. So instead of waiting for someone to tell you, and most people don't get this anyway. So like, where is the personal teacher who's going to correct your English? Do you have this person already? Are they with you 24 hours a day whenever you want to speak? I mean, you can ask ChatGPT or something if you want to get specific corrections on vocabulary. But again, it's not the same thing as preparing for real conversations. You can't just get like, here's a grammar point, and I'm going to try to remember that, and then I practice that with ChatGPT. That's not how you get fluent in a language, because you never know what people are going to say. It's a completely different environment, a completely different skill you're trying to develop. So when people say, hey, I need feedback, what if you just had no doubt before you spoke? Wouldn't you rather do that? Why do you want to go through this process of not feeling confident? Then I try to speak. Now I'm going to wait for feedback. Maybe you get feedback, maybe you do not. All right? And then if you get feedback, do you remember it? You need all of this stuff, and you need it all to be working perfectly, and really to have access to that whenever you like. And almost nobody has that. Even people living in native English-speaking countries don't have this. I have a wife who is Japanese, and I can't even do all this. I ask my wife sometimes, I say, hey, I have a question about this. And she's like, isogashi, or like, I'm too busy, I can't help you right now. So even my own wife, in my own house that I pay for, I can't get this. Okay? Sometimes I can, but a lot of times I don't. Isogashi karane, she's busy. Anyway, so when people are saying like, I'm waiting for feedback, the feedback comes before you speak, by seeing all of these examples of how people say things or pronounce them, or different ways they connect vocabulary. So I don't need to watch like one teacher do something and then try to repeat them and say it exactly the way they do. What I need to do is see a bunch of different natives talking about something, and then as I watch that, I will feel very confident about how to do that too. Okay, so the feedback comes before you speak. Before you speak, all right? You can get it here, but it sounds like you're not getting it now. So how else are you going to get it? Are you getting lots of feedback right now? Do you have someone that's like live correcting you all the time, or no? So this is kind of like I don't know, it's like almost like an imaginary thing, like a standard people have about how they need to learn languages. Nobody's giving you this. All right. For most people, they're not getting this anyway. Even in conversations, people are not just correcting you all the time. People don't want to do that. It's often impolite, and they want to make sure like you can understand things and just keep the conversation going. They don't want to stop and correct you all the time. So instead of trying to improve this way, why not improve before you speak? All right. This is the strangest fluency secret. And if you try to get fluent before you speak, you will surprise yourself like, oh, it's actually working. I think some other people, maybe I missed those comments before, but people were saying I'm using this for learning Spanish or whatever, or other language, and it works. And of course it does, because why wouldn't it? It's the same way people get fluent in any language. It's how we learn our regular language or native language, and you can just apply that same thinking to learning English. That's how you do it. So when I'm learning Japanese, I'm not waiting for people to correct my Japanese. I just get good examples of how people use the language. If I see some fluent speakers use something, then I know, like I understand how it works, so I feel confident about that. Okay. All right. Let's see. So monitoring your progress comes from getting examples and then basically copying what they do and feeling confident. It's a process you can actually feel. You don't need a person to tell you if you're correct. You just know what's correct. Again, one says, hello from Thailand. Have you ever been to Thailand? Have you been to Thailand? Yes. Thailand is a nice place. I've been there before. Break the Logic, good morning from India. What's your thought on practicing self-talk about specific topics? Is it really helpful to encounter real-time situations? I don't do that. I don't sit around practicing talking about stuff. If I have any time to learn, like to actually spend some time focusing on language learning, I want to spend my time getting examples from other people. That's how I improve. All right. It's amazing because this is something you can do by yourself, anywhere, anytime. You don't need anyone to practice like speaking. You don't need to wait for teachers or whatever. And it's fun. So it's an easy thing to do. It's just getting lots of examples about the things you're interested in already. So if I like watching action movies and I want to learn how to talk like action, heroes or whatever in action movies, I watch a bunch of those movies. Very easy. Okay. If I want to learn about, I don't know, how to draw smiley faces well, I watch a bunch of videos about that and I should feel a lot more confident. Maybe if I can't draw well, at least I can talk about it well. Let's see. And from Zomia says, Power Grass Ganesh about Thailand ever. So have you been to Thailand? Let's see. Hi, how are you doing English? How are you doing, teacher? I'm doing well. And Bridge says, aha. I don't know what that's referring to. MC says, I'm furious about that. They said the chocolate arrived to Nagasaki, but they didn't find your right address until now. What? That's weird. I don't know. I think, the Japanese post office is usually pretty good. You are DD of Fluency, so you are a designated driver to rate us in our own fluency because we are ESL. All right, I'll explain this in a different way. If you're listening to a song on the radio, I can try to sing that song along with the person singing. I don't need someone to give me feedback because the person is already giving me feedback. Like they sing the note ding and I sing the note ding. Like obviously they're incorrect. But if I can get my note where their note is, if I can sing the same note, then I'm probably going to feel pretty confident and know I'm correct. So I don't need that person. I don't need the singer of a song to physically be in the car with me to do that. All right. And if you're waiting for that, it's never going to happen. So like people who get this, either you're paying a lot of money and spending a lot of time doing this, and it's not going to guarantee fluency for you anyway, because having one person correct one thing for you, it doesn't prepare you for all of the other kinds of speech you will encounter in real life. Okay, so the number one reason to do things this way is because it mirrors the way communication actually happens. I'm not just learning from one clear teacher, I'm learning from a bunch of real native examples, and that's going to help me feel much more confident about speaking. I'm going to learn the real language people use, I'm going to remember it and recall it when I need it in conversations, I'm going to know the right things to say for particular situations, and I'm going to know how to connect those things so I speak fluently. Okay, I can get that very easily just by seeing lots of good examples in a structured, systematic way. All right, it's not just watching a bunch of random content. Like I need to be doing that in a structured way that erases my doubts. I mean, if I get that, I will develop fluency. All right. So the lesson here today is you can do things this way. It is possible to get fluent that way, but why wouldn't you just use the cheat code and get fluent before you speak by erasing your doubt? All right. If you'd like help doing this, this is what we do in Fluent for Life, but whether you do this with me or not, I promise you, if you begin applying this idea, the things I'm talking about in this video and the other videos on my channel, you will improve your fluency in English or whatever other language you'd like to learn. All right, Jefferson here. Professor, I understand this level of understanding very well. Excuse me. What would it be like studying 3 years listening to a lot of English? Well, you would you would be fluent. You would be fluent faster than that. You don't need 3 years to do that, but you would be fluent very quickly. Hassan says, how phrasal verbs are important to us in casual conversation. Well, I don't know. You just click on any video about phrasal verbs in my channel. So anything on my channel about that, but they're very important, and I actually call them the world's greatest English fluency hack. So it's the one thing you could learn that would improve all of your communication skills together, as well as prepare you for confident communication, because people use lots of phrasal verbs in everyday speech. And then break the logic is how reading books helps me to improve my fluency. Do you believe that having 10 different complicated stories all the time in my mind would enable me to have a great conversation with them? Well, you're kind of framing this in a way that's like 10 different complicated stories. I mean, no, but if you're asking how does reading improve fluency, for my example, and you should watch my video about these books get you fluent if you're curious about, if you have like a genuine question about that. But the basic idea is that I'm looking at things to get real examples of the language. So in this situation, what do people say? And then I'm also looking for how might different people express the same situation. So, for example, I read in Japanese, I have, 3 or 4 different versions of like the Three Little Pigs story, Sanbiki no Kobuta. So I can read that and say, oh, this person tells a story this way, and this person tells a story this way, and this person tells a story that way. And so that's how you're, again, reading strategically. I might take the same kind of book, or I might watch a movie about something and read the book and listen to some people talking about it. I'm being strategic about my learning. I'm not just getting a bunch of random stuff and expecting to get fluent from that. The point is, erasing the doubt. If I don't erase the doubt, I won't feel confident when I speak. So the whole point is to erase the doubt before you speak. Wouldn't you like to do that? It seems like a reasonable thing. I know a lot of people are told they need to do this, and they think, okay, I have to speak. I have to find people to practice speaking with. But I promise you, it will come a lot easier if you spend more time watching people speak strategically. Okay. The strategy is the important thing there. It's not just reading one book here and watching some other random video over there. Like, there needs to be overlap of this different content. So it needs to make sense. Watch the Naturally Varied Review video on my channel about making espresso. It's another good example of this Naturally Varied Review. All right, and it says, thanks, Drew. English and Spanish. Let's see, how often do you go live? Usually like once or twice a week. I think lately it's more just once a week. Thursdays, my morning here in Japan. So today is Thursday. What day is it? The 9th. See, Juan Carlos says, fluency don't come that easy for everyone. I've lived in the U.S. for 18 years and still can't speak. Yeah, it's more about how you've learned, how people have taught you the language, Juan. It's not your fault. You learned Spanish, presumably. I'm guessing Spanish is your native language. But you learned that because you got a bunch of good examples from people even before you spoke. Then you felt confident, you were speaking, okay, now I know how to express myself, I know the right thing to say, and so you started speaking. That's how it worked. Just do that same thing in English again. How can I remove the French tone while I'm speaking? Because I feel it gives me doubts. Again, if you have doubts about anything, grammar, pronunciation, whatever, see examples of people using that. So if you don't want to sound like your native accent, you want to sound more like a native speaker in whatever language, spend time listening to real people speak the language. That's how you do it. You want to sound like a cowboy, listen to people who are cowboys talking about different stuff. All right, that's how you do it. Anyway, that would be the end of this video. Look at that, an hour and a half. Starting 2025, but hopefully you have enjoyed this video. Remember, either you can try to improve in conversations, which is possible, but it's just very frustrating, especially if you don't have anyone to speak with, or you can erase the doubt before you speak, so that when you do speak, you feel much more confident and you're able to express yourself. All right, seems very easy. All right, this is the way I learned. This is how I started getting fluent in Japanese, and that's how I get fluent as I learn new words in Japanese, and this is why I've been teaching the same thing for 20 years. All right, couldn't you ask the closed post office about this job? Well, I don't even know who I would ask about that. I don't think I can ask anyone about the chocolate. I don't know how I would call them and say, hey, I called the post office and. But you know what's interesting is in Japan, like people would probably make an effort to do that. And that's what I love about Japan. Like you can give people an impossible task and they'll still like try to make an effort for that. So if I go to the post office and I say, hey, MC in France sent me some chocolate, where is it? They at first they'll kind of look at me in a funny way, but like maybe they may try to do something, you know. Anyway, but I you know, either it's eaten or it's gone or whatever, or it'll come back to you or something like that. I don't know. I'm not worried, but it's the thought that counts. I appreciate that you sent me that though. Break the logic again. Could you please succinctly explain the whole process step by step real quick? It's one thing. Erase the doubt before you speak by seeing lots of good examples of native English strategically. That's it. That's it. Go back and watch the video. I explain this process in different ways in different videos, but that is the idea. If you could erase the doubts you have about English before you speak, then when you get into conversations, you will feel confident and express yourself fluently. That's the idea. If you'd like to learn more about this, click on the link in the description for Fluent for Life below this video. You can also learn more about Frederick in that link, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.